Hey guys, so I was making this video and I realized that my microphone wasn't turned on, so this particular video doesn't have a sound, but I'll try my best to explain what's going on here. Okay, so this is me heading to the bakery, and I was trying to tell you guys about the bakery and show you some of the processes that I do on a regular basis. So I just wanted you to take a look at all our activities, from how we bring out our recipe to how we produce this bread. I just wanted to show you people about production generally. So please forgive me, this video doesn't have a sound. I don't know how it happened. I actually forgot my microphone, but I hope you understand what's going on. I think there's a part that has a sound, so just watch. You might be able to follow the whole process, from the mixing to the cutting, to the molding, to putting the dough into a pan and baking. Okay, so this is the mixing room. This is my mixing room where I put most of my ingredients. As you can see, my floor is outside the production hall. This is a production hall with all the machines. That's my floor right there. Then I'll just try and explain to the extent that I'll be able to explain. So I was just switching on the lights because the place was dark. And you see, that's how, remember I was telling you guys that you can use any hall. You see how tiny my bakery is. It's not so big, but that's where all the work happens. So this is me in the recipe room trying to start my day. This is a Sunday. Yeah, this video was made on a Sunday, so most of the staffs are not available. It was just me and one other staff that I was able to call to come and join me to produce this particular day. It's not a working day, so most of the staffs are not around. They don't usually work on Sundays. So for the purpose of this video, I called him that he should come over. Let's make at least 1.5 bag, just to show you guys the process of production. So what was I saying here? What was I saying in this video? Okay, I guess I was trying to explain to you guys, okay, the recipes. Yes, you can see the sugar, my butter, and the recipe bucket is right there. This is the yeast that I use, and that's the preservative. That's a bag of preservative over there. Yes, that's preservative. That one is about to finish. So the second bag, that's one I'm opening now. Then that's my bread packaging wraps right there that we used to package there. That's for the big bread and the small bread. The wrap for the small bread and the wrap for the big bread. Okay, so any moment I'm going to start measuring out my recipes and putting them. I usually put the recipes in the small bucket. If you can remember, there's a video I made about these small empty butter containers that has a cover. That's what I usually use to put my recipe in. Okay, so this improver. This is an improver. I usually like using this small improver because I notice it makes my bread really smooth. It gives the end result of the bread only comes out very nice. There is also the big improver, the big size of 100 gram. This is 5 gram improver. There's a 100 gram improver. That one is much bigger. I don't really like using those bigger ones, the big sachet ones. This small one is very powerful. I prefer using it. So that's King's groundnut oil. Like I was telling you guys, we don't use groundnut oil in production. We only use it just to rub on the dough. Not really rub on the dough, I just rub it on my hand most times, and then before I put my dough on the table, I just sprinkle a little groundnut oil on the table so the dough doesn't stick to the stainless steel table. So that's the bucket, the empty butter container I was telling you guys about. Then this is the scale. I told you this scale is very important. I use that scale to measure my flour. I have a half bag mixer, not a 1 bag mixer. So that half bag mixer, I can't put 1 full bag of flour in it. So I usually use this scale to measure the flour into 2. That's half bag. a bag of flour is 50 kg. My mixer is too small for a 50 kg flour, so I have a half bag flour. I usually use that scale to measure it, and that's my mixer right there. You see, it's not such a big mixer. I don't have that yet, but I'm planning to get one, the very big mixer. This is a half bag mixer. It can only contain half bag of flour, which is 25 kg of flour plus your recipe. That's how much. And I think the capacity of this mixer is, I think 30 kg. Yeah, they call it 30 kg mixer, because your half bag of flour is 25 kg. Then the extra kg will be for your recipe and your water that you're going to be using. So then this what's it called, this bowl, the mixer bowl, this big mixer bowl you're seeing right now, they call it, I think is a 60, they said 60 capacity. I think they called, when I was buying it, they said it's 60 capacity. Well, I can't remember. Anyway, I'll just try my best to explain what I can explain here. So this is a mixer. That's a stainless steel table and a scraper on the table. Okay guys, so I'll just try to explain what's going on. I can't remember what I was saying here exactly, but I guess I was trying to explain one or two things. Okay, so that's the door of the entrance of the bakery. I told you I'm using a flat. I'm not using a big factory. It's not like it's a purpose built factory. It's not. It's just I'm using one of my empty flats to produce this bread. So that, like I was telling you guys, you can actually have it if you have an empty room. You don't have to start renting. If you have an empty room that you're not using, you can actually convert it into a bakery and start from there and scale up and begin. Do you understand? So like me now, I'm using a 2-bedroom flat, an empty 2-bedroom flat right in my compound where I live. I own the property, so it's easier to just use that particular flat. And I've been in this business now for going to 3 years now. Yeah, 2 to 3 years now. So this is an ice block. Like I was telling you guys, you need an ice block to make bread. Most people don't know this, but you can't use ordinary water. If you use, it's not like you can't use ordinary water. If you use ordinary water, your bread will be very rough. It's not going to be smooth. So you always need to get an ice block. So what I usually do is I have a deep freezer, and I bought this bag, this transparent bag, where I fill it with water and then put into the deep freezer. Before daybreak, it freezes overnight, so there'll be ice block for me to use the following day for production. So that's what we did. So I also, from the deep freezer now, I just brought out only 2 to use, because I'm not doing much bread today. I just want to do just I think a 1 bag bread that I will show you guys. Okay, so remember, this is a scale. This stainless thing you're seeing that I'm touching right now is a scale. You are going to need a scale. This scale, you use this scale to measure small items like your sugar that you won't be able to use your 50 kg scale for, or your 30 kg scale for. It will be too big. So things like sugar, things like your salt, things like preservative, improvers, you know, your butter, you can make use of this small scale to measure them, not the big scale. The big scale you use for things like flour, you use it to measure your water, because you can actually use this small scale to measure water, right? So the only thing I will not be telling you guys about today, the only thing I will not be telling you today is the recipe. Of course, I can't share my recipe with you, that's secret, but at least I can show you the process of making this bread. So that's the sugar. You measure out your sugar. So this is salt. Salt is also part of the recipe. This is salt. When you're done with your sugar, you measure out your salt. You put your salt into your recipe bucket. So you can see I have 3 buckets. The 3 buckets are for the 3 recipes I'm going to be bringing out, because I'm going to be making 1.5 bag of flour. So you can see I'm putting salt in the 3 buckets, half bag each. Each bucket is a recipe for half bag of flour. Okay, so these are this is a preservative. This is the kind of preservative I use. In the market there are different kinds of preservative, and there's no preservative out there that is more superior than the other. They all do the same thing, so any brand you choose to use is fine. It doesn't matter. So I think the name of this particular one is it Macbon or so? Yeah, Macbon preservative. It comes in 500 grams. So it depends on the kind of recipe you, or the kind of recipe or the type of bread you want to make. For I just use a little quantity, which I'm sorry, I'm not going to be telling you what exactly the measurement is. But if you check my previous video, I've made a video about how you can create your own recipe, your own unique recipe that will be unique to you. Next is the improver. I told you guys about improver. This improver helps the texture of your bread. When you use improver, you see that your bread, the difference is always, there's a great difference between when you use an improver and when you don't use an improver. When you don't use an improver, you see your bread scattering, it becomes like shaft, or there'll be a lot of crumbs in it when you don't use an improver. But when you use improver, you see your bread becomes very stretchy, you know, and the texture is always very beautiful. It comes out very well. So that's improver I'm putting in all of the buckets, the recipe buckets for each recipe. This small improver is small but mighty. It's very powerful. So I like this particular one. This is called, I think this is Better Bake. Yeah, Better Baker. It's small sachet. It's very good for your bread. There is the big one. They have the big size of it, but I usually don't like using big size. I prefer this smaller size because it just does the job for me. Okay, so next you cover your recipe just to avoid unwanted particles going into it, you know. That's why you should always get this kind of bucket that has a cover, so that the moment you're done bringing out the recipe, you cover it immediately. Okay, so now I'm trying to bring out the butter I'll be using for each of the recipe. I'm measuring out the butter. I don't put my butter inside the recipe. I bring it out. I put it in a separate nylon. So that's the quantity of butter I'll be using for each half bag. One thing you should also notice, if you notice, I didn't put my yeast inside my recipe. I didn't put yeast. I usually put yeast later. When I'm mixing the dough, the yeast usually comes later. I don't put it immediately. Why I don't do that is because why I do that rather is because I don't want the dough rising too quickly. I want the dough to have mixed to an extent before I put in the yeast. Then as soon as the yeast gets into the dough, it can begin to poof. You know, I don't want it poofing while it's still mixing. I want the poofing process to begin when the dough has entered into the pan. When I throw the dough into the pan, then it can begin to poof. I don't want it poofing while it's in the mixer. I don't want it poofing while it's on the table for cutting. So this is groundnut oil. This vegetable oil, I don't use it in making this bread. I don't put groundnut oil in my, it's not part of my recipe. The only reason I use groundnut oil is to make the bread, to make the dough rather, not the bread, to make the dough not to stick to the table. And again, in the mixer, I don't want the dough sticking to the mixer, so it will be easy to bring out the dough when it has finished mixing. So you see, this is another brand of yeast. The other one, the instant sauces, this instant sauces, and the other one called Majet, they are all yeast made by different companies. They all do the same thing. There is no one that is more superior to the other. They are just different brands. It's just I usually buy whatever is available in the market. I don't have a particular one that I will say, okay, this is the one I use. There's also STK yeast. There is what's the other one? What's it called? I can't remember right now. There's another yeast. They are just different brands made by different companies. They are all very good. So it doesn't matter the brand of yeast that you're using. They will still give you the same results. It's just what I find in the market that I buy. Okay, so now this is also butter. I also put butter into this pan. I use it to grease the dough. Like, I just rub the dough with butter after mixing before it goes into the pan. I still rub extra butter. I think that's what usually gives my bread that unique buttery flavor that it usually has. I know most people have always said, your bread is so buttery, it has a lot of butter in it. I like the taste and everything. This is my secret. Now you know that what I do is I put extra butter on the dough. I rub extra butter on that dough. So that's what makes it really, that gives it that unique flavor, butter flavor. I don't use flavor, like I told you guys. I don't use flavor for my bread when making my bread. I don't like flavor. I don't like flavored bread naturally. If you're the type that likes flavored bread, so when you're bringing out your recipe, you can add your whatever flavor that you like into your recipe bucket. Or maybe when you're mixing your dough, you can decide to put your flavor into it. Put a drop. I don't know the quantity you might want to use, but I don't use flavor. What I use, my own secret, is this butter. And I don't have a particular butter that I use. Most times I use any brand of butter that is available, but it has to be carton butter. I don't like using sachet butter. I use the butter that are in carton, the 15 kg size of carton. That's what I prefer to use for my bread when making bread. Okay, so now the reason why I'm bringing out this butter is I don't use it like this. It's still congealed. It's still hard. I don't use it like this. I usually put it in the oven to melt. So I use liquid butter. You see how it's hard right now? It has to melt. When it turns into liquid, that's when I begin to use it to rub on my dough before I throw it into the pan. So I'm going to leave it in here for some while, for like say 10 minutes. Yeah, for like 10 minutes for it to melt. Like I was telling you guys, today is not a working day. If it was on a working day, you'd have seen lots of staffs here working. You'd have seen my staffs, but today is not a working day. I was only able to get this guy. I had to beg him to please come and join me in production today, just to show you guys. So guys, this is all for you, just to show you guys. So please do me well by liking this video. Please leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please do your girl well. For those of you that are new to this page, to this my channel rather, I welcome you specially. Thank you for coming. And if you're a returning subscriber, oh my guys, you guys are too much. I've been seeing your comments and it's very encouraging. I love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, you can see he's measuring the quantity of water he'll be using. You know, you don't just pour water into your flour, you have to measure it. Like for the half bag flour we're about to use, I usually use 13.5 liters of water, including the ice block. You can see that bucket has ice block in it. That ice block I showed you guys at the beginning, it was crushed. We had to crush it into tiny pieces, put in the bucket. Then we'll now add ordinary water, filtered water rather, not ordinary water. The water is filtered, you know, as according to NAFDAC requirements. You cannot use ordinary water, like water you just get from the tap. You have to you have to have a filtration process, like a water filtering. Okay guys, so like what I was actually saying was we used 13.5 liters. Another thing is also depends on the kind of flour you're using, the brand of flour you're using. This is a mix and bake flour. The name of this particular flour is called mix and bake. It's made by Olam Flour Mill. So this particular flour usually takes a lot of water, unlike the other flour, like the golden penny flour or the Dangote flour. If you're in Nigeria, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so now this is another kind of scale I use. I use this scale to measure my yeast. You know, this scale is really, yeah, I usually use to measure my yeast, but it's solely meant for cutting of my dough into tiny pieces. When you cut the dough, we use it to measure cut dough. So you can see he's about to put the yeast. Like I told you guys, I don't put yeast immediately inside my recipe. I put it separately. It's not in the recipe bucket. I don't include yeast in my recipe bucket. I put it separately, and that's after the dough has mixed to an extent before I put my yeast. So that just to delay the proofing process a little bit, so you can have time to mix very well. So I don't include yeast. That's one of the major reasons why I don't include yeast in the recipe. So this is him putting yeast inside the dough. So like I was trying to explain to you guys that this particular flour we used is the mix and bake flour. It's called mix and bake. If you're in Nigeria, you will know mix and bake flour. So I don't know the kind of flours you have. For those of you outside of Nigeria, I am not used to your kind of flour, but if you're in Nigeria, this is mix and bake. I don't always use mix and bake. Sometimes I use golden penny, sometimes I use Dangote, just depending on what is available. Okay, here now he's putting butter into the mix. I usually don't put butter in the recipe. I put it separately, just like the way I put yeast later. I also put butter later. I don't put it at the beginning. Okay, so these are the pans. So now he's checking to see if the dough is ready. And how you check to know is you pick a little of the dough and try to stretch it out. If it's transparent, if you can look through the dough, then you know that it is ready. But if you can't see, okay, you can see what he's doing with the groundnut oil. I told you the groundnut oil is just meant to put on the table, so you'll be able to place your dough on that particular table without it sticking to the table. Okay guys, so our dough is ready and it's time for cutting. So you see that scale I was telling you guys about, this scale is for cutting small doughs, for measuring small dough, not cutting, sorry, pardon my grammar guys. It's for measuring tiny doughs. This is the small bread size. I forgot to tell you guys kind of bread I'm making right now. This is the small bread, you know, the small tiny bread they sell for 100 naira out there, that they sell in the market for 100 naira. Now it's sold for 120 naira here in Nigeria. So this is mostly the kind of bread I make. I do the family bread as well, but I concentrate more on this one because I realized that it was a fast moving one for me, unlike the big family bread. The big family bread doesn't move as much as these tiny ones. These small ones, even if I make 10 bags, it finishes like in a twinkle of an eye. I make 10-15 bags, it's finished. it's usually not even enough in a day. So that's why I concentrated more on this. But if I make the big family bread, sometimes I find it difficult selling up to even 5 bags a day. But you see this small one, I can sell up to 10 bags in one day. So guys, this is a game changer for me. That's why I concentrate more on these small tiny ones. So right now, you see he used the cutting machine. The cutting machine is the other one beside me. That's the cutting machine. He used it to cut the dough and then places them on the table for me to measure out the quantity, the right size we use before throwing it into the molder. You see that place where I'm throwing it? That is the molder. That's the molding machine. It molds the dough. Although you can mold with your hands, but you know, it makes you might be very slow. It will take a lot of time. But if you throw in the molding machine, it's faster. So that's why I like to use the molding machine. You can see the tiny dough on the stainless steel table. Those are the dough that cutter. The cutter is the one beside the mixer. That's the cutter. It cuts the dough into tiny loaves for me. So all I'm just doing is, you can see I'm not cutting anymore. I just pick from the table and I throw it into the scale. I put it on the scale rather, and the scale just gives me the right size that I want before throwing into the molding machine. So I'll still show you guys how he cuts the dough with the cutter. So sometimes when the cutter cuts, it might not give me the exact size I want. So I might either the dough is too much or is too small. So most times I just add a little to it while I am concentrating on this. So guys, I hope you like this video. If you do, please do me well by liking and sharing this video. Turn on your notification button if you haven't, so you can get to know whenever I post new content. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do. So this is my 9-year-old daughter. Her name is Gemma. She also works in the factory, especially during holidays. Now schools are on holiday. She's not doing anything. Instead of staying at home and watching TV all day, she usually comes to the bakery to help out. Most of the activities that happen in this bakery, Gemma knows everything. She knows how to mix. She knows how to even mold bread with her hands, you know. So right now she's helping with the covering of the pan. Some other days you see her helping with the rubbing of the butter on the dough. She helps with that. She knows how to do that very well. So they are done covering the pan. So next is they count the number of dough that we have produced. They count and record it. Those in charge of doing these are not available today because it's a Sunday. Like I said, it's a non-working day, so I just called members of my household to come to the bakery. The other guy is part of the production team. He usually works in production, but I had to call him over to come and help out. Okay, so you can see the bread is ready. We put in the oven and it baked for, after proofing, sorry I skipped that. You know, you keep the bread to proof, and after proofing, next it goes into the oven. So it usually bakes for like 25-30 minutes, sometimes let's say 25 minutes. So when now it's done baking, and you can see I'm putting them on the rack. Remember this rack I told you in my previous video about how important this rack is. It has holes. You can see how the rack was made just to allow free flow of air go around the bread to make it cool, because your bread has to cool very well before you wrap. You can't wrap a hot bread. If you wrap hot bread, it's going to bring out steam, and the steam might make the bread get soggy and even begin to spoil on time. So most times you have to let it cool down before you wrap. That's why we usually put it on this rack. So this is the bread where we have made today. I hope you have learned one or two things about bread making. I'll still put out some more videos for you guys to see some other important things that you will need to know. So when you start your bakery, please invite me to come over so I can see what you have been able to put in place. Thank you guys. Please like and share this video. And do not forget to leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you like about the video and tell me how important this video has been. So many of you have been leaving me videos. I'm happy. I'm so glad to read your comments. And I'm glad that I am impacting in your life. I'm actually doing God's work, you know, by teaching you what I know. This is my own little way of serving God. You know, some people pay to get this kind of training, but here am I doing it for free without a penny. All I just need is a thank you from you. You know, like I told you, I don't know if you can remember one of my videos, I told you guys that I learned this for free, and that is why I am also willingly going to train and give people this knowledge for free without collecting a dime. It's my own way of telling God thank you for empowering me. And I also want to empower the young ones out there. And even if you have an existing bakery, I'm sure there are one or two things you can learn from my videos. So please guys, just help me, support me in serving the Lord by sharing knowledge. If you have any knowledge you want to share with people, do like I do. Share it out for free. Nobody's going to go to the grave with everybody. You don't want to go to the grave with the knowledge that you have. Share it, trust me, and the heavens will open up for you. You will see blessings coming to you, you know. So this is my own way of serving God, by teaching you and giving you knowledge. So guys, so this is the packaging. This guy is packaging right now. Like I told you guys, remember I told you the guy in charge of packaging didn't come today because today is a Sunday, is a non-working day, you know. So thanks if you have stayed to this point. You are the real MVP. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate you and I love you. These are some of my marketers. It's time for dispatch. So these babies will be going out to retail outlets, to different stores, different supermarkets, to be sold to the end consumers. So these are some of my marketers. I have more than this, and some distributors as well. In my last video I spoke about having marketers and distributors. So it's advisable to have both marketers and distributors. Don't rely only on your marketers and do not rely only on distributors. I told you the difference between marketers and distributors. I hope you still remember the differences.